Good. Thanks a lot for the talk, Austin. Let's get into the questions. At a very general at the front of it, what made you interested in building accessible components?
Yeah, I actually kind of I forgot to mention that in the talk, but it's in the description. Is that essentially, I don't know. I started caring about accessibility and building things and wanting to build things accessibly. And so I found myself working on different projects, and I would build it right in one project, and then I'd have to move to the next one, and the designs would be totally different. And so I'd go back to my old project and copy a code that made sense that I needed and strip out all the styles. And then I realized, let me just put these without any styles into a GitHub repo so I can reference them somewhere in the future. And then later on, I thought, well, maybe someone else would like that, so I can publish some of these. And that kind of turned into what Vuetensils is today. So what got me interested in building accessible components? Again, ethics. I'm going to be building Vue projects anyway, and I want them to be accessible, but I'm also lazy. So yeah, let me use something that's easy to copy to a lot of different projects.
Yeah, makes sense. The next question is, what's your favorite feature of Vuetensils?
Oh, I think there's some cool stuff in there that I haven't seen in some other libraries. There's a couple, like there's the vasync component, which is a renderless component, but manages promises for you. So, you know, you will have a pending state, you may have a resolve state, or you may have an error state, and it kind of makes it easy to do all that. I try to start with an API design that is developer focused, so it's really intuitive and easy, and then build out the complexity of actual providing the functionality. The other components that I love in Vuetensils are around the forms. So I spend a lot of time writing and talking about forms. It's not as robust as something like Vuelidate or some of the other form libraries, but it works with native HTML form inputs and stuff. And you can actually combine it with any other library or just HTML as long as it renders an input to the DOM.
Cool. Where are Vuetensils being used in production that you know of, if you know of any?
Well, I kept track of those. It's a project that I've had for a couple of years now, and I kept track of it when it was new. I have some friends that have told me that they've been using it, but off the top of my head, I couldn't really tell you besides the projects that I use it on.
Sure.
So not a great answer, but.
No, I think it was also good to just, some people have these stats and have established things. So if you don't have any information, that's the state of it now, and hopefully you have more to share in the future, right?
Yeah.
Whose responsibility is it to test that designs meet accessibility requirements? The designers or developers? Sorry.
That is a good question. That is a very nuanced question, and I think that unfortunately the answer is kind of like it depends. There's situations where designs take such a long process and they go through so many committees to approve that once they're approved, you know, who was responsible for checking the accessibility stuff? And part of me wants to say the designers because they're the ones that created the designs, and part of me wants to say the developers because they're the ones that implement it. And I think the reality is, as if it's not obvious from my conversation or my talk, is that kind of everyone is responsible. You know, it should be ideally, if you have these tools in place, these sort of concerns should be caught at the design level, and then potentially at the development level, and then at the QA and testing level. So everyone?
Sure. That's also a good answer. A nuanced question and a nuanced answer. Do you test your web applications using screen readers?
Yes. So I was working on Linux for a very long time, and I never quite figured out how to use the Orca screen reader that they have available. I mean, I figured out how to use it, but not how to really navigate a web page with it. So there's another one for Chrome or Chrome-based browsers called ChromeVox, which I think is also terrible, and people that rely on screen readers would not use it. But it's a good easy way to get started using a screen reader. And now I'm actually back on Windows, so I've installed NVDA, and I'm very excited to get testing up and running with it, but I haven't actually got working with it. So short answer, yes, I tried to test with screen readers. I think it's important. But part of the challenge here, again, is that I'm not a screen reader user like every day. So even if I test it, it's not going to be the same as someone that uses a screen reader every day. So it's still important to get someone that is the actual user you're building for to test the application.
Sure. That makes sense. Do you test your web application? No, I clicked the wrong one. I am new to Vue, but I know about accessibility. What's the best way to onboard the dev team?
So I think the question is, how do you onboard other members of your team? And I think going through some of the tools that I've shared in my talk, the Vue accessibility ESLint plugin would probably be good if you can get your team lead or whoever's in charge of making decisions like that to sign off on including that. Then that's a really good way to start showing members of your team where those little red squigglies are. They'll start to see them. They're really annoying. They're hard to ignore. So that can onboard some people. And it's kind of like a good soft introduction.
That sounds good.
Or maybe even doing on your own, you can do an accessibility audit of your application and just present it so that people become aware.
Yeah, sure. I think also talking about resources, there was a question here. There we go. That ties into it. Can we get a list of all these resources? They're incredibly valuable, was the comment and question from the chat.
Yes, I don't have, well, I do. I guess I have those links in the slides, but I haven't shared the slides. So I think we'll have the recording. This is being recorded, right? I think we'll have a recording. I can share my slides. If you follow me on Twitter, I can probably share a link to the article that has all of this information as well.
Yeah. Good. Do you want to give a shout out again to your Twitter handle?
Yeah, you can find me at Hey Austin Gil, and that's Gil.
Hey Austin Gil.
HEYAUSTIN GIL.
Does this look good?
Looks right.
Good. Then thanks again, Austin. It was a pleasure to see your talk, and it was great to have the Q&A session. And hoping to see you again in the not so distant future. So thanks. Have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Day in your time zone.